Okay, boom, we're done. All right, so what's up?
So what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about the fun thing, your idea?
I want to talk about Diana Sullivan, Dead People Don't Lose Weight, long sleeve t-shirt. I think that's the most important thing to talk about.
Okay. Are those for sale?
No. Whoa, whoa, whoa. This is like one of the T-Birds jackets. You got to earn this thing. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
All right. So I also want to talk about my book, Dead People Don't Lose Weight, available on Amazon.com. All right, now the 1,200 calorie thing. Let's talk about that real quick. Can you please?
Okay.
The question.
There's this thing that has come up with clients a lot, and they say, I'm eating 1,200 calories a day, but not losing weight. So what could possibly be going wrong? And think
what's your thoughts on that, Devin? Because people say I talk too much. So can I get your thoughts on that first?
So I mean, it could be a number of things going on. I would say there's the person who 1,200 calories is just such an aggressive deficit that they're, after like 2 or 3 days, they're starving. And then they just end up overeating like every third day. So the issue there is finding this arbitrary calorie target and then using that number and thinking they have to try to adhere to that in order to lose weight. Whereas, and this is something you've talked about in your book, especially, where you want to base your calorie target off of your own body weight. And then there's other things that come into it, like your activity levels. And there's even other things like how much muscle you have, like your body composition plays a role. So there's that, like making sure that you're not choosing your calorie target off of an arbitrary number you saw on the internet, and making sure that you are basing your calorie target off of your own body and using that as a starting point. And then that can, a lot of times when you make your calorie target higher or appropriate for you, you can be consistent with it for longer and then actually make progress with it. So that's one thing. Another common thing that happens is just being unaware of the extra food that you're eating on top of that 1,200 calories. And that might just be eating like a lot of times, like eating healthy food, but then it's like, oh, just grab a handful of nuts here and there, or just not being as precise as you should be. What?
Always the damn nuts. They always get you in trouble. The nuts, they always get you in trouble. They really do. It's the story of my life.
But they're healthy.
Yeah, of course they're healthy, Devin.
Yeah.
Healthy nuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's say 1,200 calories a day is your calorie target and it's appropriate for you. Making sure that you're being precise about your food tracking, to make sure that you are actually eating 1,200 calories a day consistently. But yeah, so underreporting food, this is something that even nutritionists do. I think this was studied. It was like even nutritionists underreport by 400 calories a day. So having that in mind, imagine how an average person who's maybe just starting to learn about calories or doesn't have quite as much practice tracking calories. Like if a nutritionist underreports by 400, imagine how much like the average person is going to underreport by. So being aware of that. And then, so I don't know if you want to go into strategies.
Well, first of all, let's talk about my lighting, because right now I look like Don Corleone from The Godfather with this lighting. Look how they massacred my boy. No, all right, look, here's the deal. To me, this all comes down to Ozempic, all right? Let's go with the hot Ozempic. Why not discuss that for the 1,000th time?
Okay.
Who is Ozempic going to help? Well, if you have a metabolic problem, whether it's hormonal or whatever else, Ozempic is not going to help you because it does nothing to stimulate metabolism. We're agreed on this, correct? Ozempic essentially is an opioid mimetic. Essentially what it does, it constipates you, and then you don't get hungry and you don't eat. Mm-hmm. So if take everything Devin said, and you really aren't eating 1,200 calories a day, either A, because you're really bad at judging portion sizes, and you even said even dietitians are bad at that, and their business is food, right? Mm-hmm. Or You're simply just not being honest about what you're eating. Ozempic would help you because you would be not overeating because by default, because you're not going to be hungry. Or when you do that late night run to the fridge, because we know food is, let's say this very clear, food is the most widely abused, I'm not going to say antipsychotic, antidepressant drug. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Ozempic helps those people because it literally takes away the driving factor behind their weight gain, which again is not metabolic. It's not burning calories. Their main problem is the ingestion of calories. When someone tells me that they're eating 1,200 calories a day and they're not losing weight, and they're, say, for example, they don't weigh 110 pounds or 120 pounds, which if you weigh 110 pounds or 120 pounds and you're not 4'2", I'm a little confused why you're trying to lose weight in the first place. Then I know it's, and then they go to the doctor, which we always tell them to do. And the doctor says, look, it's nothing metabolic. It's nothing hormonal. There's nothing medically wrong with you. Then at some point, in some way, you're over consuming. Now, the issue I get in the trainer is human beings always overcorrect. So for a while there, the whole Biggest Loser yelling and screaming at people, Schadenfreude, taking pleasure out of the suffering of others, that was a big deal. People love to watch that. But then we all said, well, that's kind of psychotic, stupid, and everyone on that show gains the weight back, or at least a large majority do. So maybe we should try another approach and be a little softer. But then all of a sudden that turned to the overreaction of everyone was a victim. No one can control anything. And my issue as a trainer has always been this. We have to be adults in the sense of we have to look at the client and know, does this client need care and understanding? Or does this client need to be called out in the fact that they've got Hershey's miniatures hidden in the back of their freezer? And that's really what it comes down to, is if you're eating 1,200 calories a day and you're not losing weight and you've been medically cleared, there in some way, either by default or by purpose, that's not the analogy I'm looking for, but whatever, I'm not good at analogies right now. By something, either by accident, you're misjudging the food honestly, or B, you're just lying about it, which we can't be afraid to call people out on that. You're over consuming calories. The law of thermodynamics does not cease to exist for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So maybe you do think an entire pizza only has 800 calories. I don't know how at this point anybody does, but maybe you really believe that without knowing that a single slice is usually about 300 to 400, depending on the toppings on it. Maybe you really don't know that. And that's where books like Dead People Don't Lose Weight come in very handy, because they deal with, shameless plug, they deal with that 20%, that 10% of weight loss that is about the numbers. But the other 80% of weight loss has nothing to do with numbers. It's about behavior. And that's where you wind up, most people wind up gaining weight on 1,200 calories a day, is they're messing up the behavior part of it. And you can't solve behavior problems with numbers, information. Ron McDonald had this quote once. He said, well, he says it all the time. It's not a one thing, like he said it, that he died. He says it like almost every podcast he does. He says, if you want to lose weight, get in a calorie deficit, consume sufficient protein, and everything else is negotiable. And a lot of times clients ask us questions that are unanswerable because we don't have enough context to answer the question. But once you cover those two things, everything else is a matter of context, and it depends on the individual in the situation. But it all comes down to that: getting a calorie deficit, consume adequate protein. The rest is really just details that have to be negotiated for the individual. So that's where I stand on the 1,200 calories. Someone once asked me, what's the personality trait that's most important for losing weight? And I say honesty. Because unless you can be honest about what's driving your problem, if you swear, despite all the blood tests, despite all the feedback, that you somehow are only eating 1,200 calories a day and you're gaining weight or you're not losing weight and you weigh 150 pounds and you're active, we need to get down to figure out what's driving this. And you got to be honest about your situation. Because when you really dig deep on these situations, you start, I said situation twice in a row, it's really annoying. That's 3 times. When you're really honest about what's going on, you're going to find that there is some form of overconsumption going on. So that's my thought on the 1,200 calories.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, like some people might be not being honest with themselves, but sometimes it's just they're unaware that, like, if you just haven't had that much experience tracking calories, you don't really realize how much a little bit adds up here and there. Like you mistrack the peanut butter you put in your smoothie in the morning by a little bit, but peanut butter is pretty calorie dense, so a little bit goes a long way. Let's say for lunch, you get a sandwich at Subway and you eating out, it's really hard to accurately track. Let's say you underestimate that by a couple hundred calories. And then same thing, let's say you cook with dinner, you use a little bit of olive oil and forget to track that you cooked with olive oil. There's, let's say 300 or 400 calories. And let's say you do that a couple days a week, that's going to be enough to erase that deficit. So it's these little things that people might not be intentionally being dishonest, but it's just that unawareness that those little things are really going to add up. And so just gaining more awareness about that, and then and just getting more accurate about the calorie tracking.
Please, God, at Subway. That would be my first thing to tell people to do. If you get nothing out of this podcast video, stop eating at Subway. If you're in Hamilton, New Jersey, go to the Little King shop. All right, go anywhere other than Subway. If you're in Hamilton,
I don't know why Subway was the first thing that popped into my head. It's like a convenient lunch. People think it's like kind of healthy-ish, which you can get something decent there.
Nothing good in my life ever ish. Anytime I ish things, something gets screwed up. You know, I get it. I get very upset when I hear about something. Look, here's the deal. I don't know. Just don't eat at Subway. I think the problem I have after like doing this for so long, I'm so jaded.
Yeah.
I just simply had too many instances where I've been at the world-class ShopRite of Montgomery, New Jersey, or the actual world-class ShopRite in Hamilton, New Jersey. Let's be honest here, Devin. Am I correct?
That's correct.
The actual world-class ShopRite in Hamilton. Now they just put a name on it.
Way better than the Montgomery ShopRite.
Close. It's not even close. Right. I can't tell how many times I see people in the grocery store in the Montgomery ShopRite, and they literally see me and they do this move where they walk in front of their cart to block me from seeing what's in their cart. And so somehow I'm looking in their cart in the first place, which I am, but I'm not going to admit that to them there. But they block what's in their cart so I don't see what they're actually getting to eat, right? Because people know, again, this is my jaded part. I think a lot more people know than what they're letting on to. It's such a denial. We understand life is hard and people work too many hours and there's too much stress and their kids are too overprogrammed and they're too overprogrammed and they feel like they have to do everything. And then, you know, Snickers ice cream bars, or I don't know what else other people eat, but something like that. It's like a hug. It loves you, right? And they can't admit that they're eating those foods. And I agree. Look, I'm admitting openly, this is my bias, but I've just had so many instances where I cannot always be, well, I'm not sensitive, Mike, so it doesn't work, but I can't always be like, well, they just don't know. If we did a good cop, bad cop kind of thing here, people should follow your balanced, intelligent, sane approach, that people just need to educate themselves more about calories. But my kind of maniac approach is they know what they're eating. We all know, we're all part of the same. I'm not in my Don Corleone mode. We're all part of the same hypocrisy, Senator Geary, right? We all know what's going on. And until we get the calories under control, I mean, that's what it is. And I get it. Life is hard. Some people maybe shouldn't be trying to lose weight right now. But yeah, I got that off my chest. Thank you, Devin. I feel way better now.
Oh, good.
But
well, I'm glad you feel better.
Listen to Devin, because you don't need my angry rants. Learn about portion control. Learn about exactly how much food you're doing. Track and monitor what you're eating. We believe that you really don't know. And then there's Angry Mike who says that you know exactly what you're eating. It's just, okay, that's done. But nobody doesn't lose weight. You lose weight on 1,200 calories a day, which is an insane small amount of food, unless you're an insanely small person or incredibly inactive and still small. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say about that. Or you have some kind of medical problem, which is so far out of our scope of practice, go see a doctor and get rid of it. Right. That was the three things from the movie The Jerk. Yeah. If you catch something, see a doctor and get rid of it. Don't trust Whitey, and the Lord loves a working man. Those are the three things I got out of the Steve Martin movie, The Jerk. People are like, well, Shank, you're acting like a jerk right now. Well, you know what? Have people tell you they're not eating. No, I'm not gonna get into it. I'm getting too angry. Devin, move on to the next topic before we lose the whole video. Go.
All right. So are we gonna talk about our fun topic, or are we gonna play our game?
Do whatever you want to do. I just go. Let's see what happens.
So next we're gonna play a game. It's called Overrated, Underrated. So I'm gonna say a topic, and you're gonna tell me whether you think it's overrated or underrated, and tell me.
Excited. My whole life, I've always wanted to be on a game show, and no one put me on a game show. And I understand why. I don't blame them. But I used to watch a show called Sale of the Century when I was a little kid, and the show was so stupid that even as a kid, I could answer some of the questions. And I've always wanted to be on a game show. So I'm very excited about this. Go.
Okay. All right. So the first one is Theraguns. What do you think? Overrated, underrated, or you could say adequately rated, and why?
Right. I take a physical challenge like on Double Dare. I mean, look, they're insanely overrated. What do they do? They don't actually. So how am I going to put this in a way that makes sense? Theraguns provide disturbance to the skin. The nerves on the skins operate at a much faster speed than the ones in the muscle. So essentially what they do is a Theragun will distract from tension from the muscle by placing sensation on the skin. They don't fix your problem. What they can do is make the terrain on which you fix the problem, the stretching, the exercise, the postural correction, dare I even say the psychological that amplify pain, right? It will make that your body much more conducive to doing that, because you're not just so focused on the tension in the muscle all the time or the sensation of the pain from the muscle. Your brain is distracted by this. Hey, martial arts man, and this guy really was a master. Like, he was no joke, this guy. And one time he said he was going to do this special karate technique that he learned in his Kenpo days. And he took his hands and he did this whole like Mr. Miyagi thing, and put your fist out like this, and he'd do his whole thing, and then he'd tap you on the forehead and he'd knock your fist away. And we're like, oh my God, did he like paralyze our cranial nerves? Right? Which I know is not possible when my head is too big and thick. And he said, no, all I did was I distracted you. I told you a stupid story, right, about some Far Eastern technique I learned when I was stationed in Korea after Vietnam. And you got so distracted by my Mr. Miyagi hand techniques that you were focusing on that. And then when your fist was out in front of me and I poked you, you weren't focusing on keeping your fist hard, and I just knocked your arm out of the way. That's really, to a degree, what a Theragun does, right? It feels good, and that provides some chemicals that help with the healing process. But to a great degree, it's just a big distraction that lets you then make the most out of the exercises, stretches, breathing techniques you're going to use that actually going to make what drives the pain go away. In of itself, they're not some kind of miracle. They're a great tool, and I'm glad we have them. But yeah, highly overrated. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think? Are you like the host, like Wink Martindale? Or are you only asking me, or do you participate?
Well, if you want my opinion, I'll share.
Yes.
I would say overrated. Let's say, how much are they? Like $150, $200 for one?
Here's the problem: they have like different models, which there. Like, I always tell my dating app, there's one model and there's one price, and that's it. Once you start having different models, I'm like, all right, you know what? All right, go, please.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say your money is probably better invested in, let's say you do 2 personal training sessions or physical therapy sessions, and you actually address the issue, like you meet with the trainer or the physical therapist, and you actually address the issue that is causing whatever tightness that is. Like, if it's like tennis elbow and you keep working on that area, you actually have to address what's leading to that tennis elbow in the first place. That's just one example, but working on finding exercises that are going to work on managing the root issue rather than just like I think the Theragun is almost just like a Band-Aid. Like, you're better off investing your time, energy, money into the exercises you need to do to help prevent that tightness from happening in the first place.
Right. And the postures you need to be in. If you're like flexion and like today, one of the dogs I was, he's a Woodrow. He saw a bicycle. He got very excited. He gets very excited at bicycles. And so he twisted and wrenched my back. Right. Now I stopped him and he sat down. I said, Woodrow, and he like sat and stopped, right? But he just caught me off guard. The Theragun is not going to correct the fact that for the rest of the day, I have to keep a much more upright body, right? Because I got flexed and rotated. And so I know what my provocative position is. And if I want my body to heal and calm down a little bit, I just got to rotate and extend. And if I do this for the rest of the day and do some rolling and stretching on my back, it's going to get better. It always does. But the issue is, you had a dog that wrenched a guy with an arthritic spine. There's going to be a physical cost to that. The Theragun may make my back muscles feel more relaxed and better, but it's not going to constantly get me out of this position, right? So for the rest of the day, I've just got to be conscious of being a little more stacked so those muscles will calm down and realize there's no alarm to be listening to. Theragun's not going to do that for me, right? So you do have a flexion intolerant back, where every time you flex your back hurts, or you're extension intolerant. Every time you go in this position, your back hurts. Theragun's not going to do anything to consistently keep you in those non-pain provocative positions. It's not going to do much outside of temporarily relaxing the muscle to get those muscles then to come back down to the level of tone they need to be so they don't feel like they're knotting up around your spine. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely overrated. If you have the money and you can afford the tool, fantastic. Right. But outside of that, you don't need it. It's not a requirement. And I think because people think it's somehow needed, that's what makes it overrated. The perception, less so much the tool, is what makes it. Yeah, that's my vote. All right. What's the next one? I love this. This is awesome.
Next one is HIIT Cardio for fat loss.
Overrated.
Why?
Oh, so here's the deal. Years ago, there were bodybuilders. One guy was a guy named Phil Visicaro. There were these bodybuilders that were experimenting with HIIT cardio at the end of their leg training routines because these guys were advanced bodybuilders. And if they lifted any more weight, their spines would explode, right? They weren't power lifters. They were bodybuilders. There's only so much weight you can lift before the orthopedic is not worth it. So the number one way that we tell people to get muscle mass and get stronger is add more load to the bar. These guys and gals are so well developed. They're so close to that 99th percentile of their ability. They've got to use all these weird and wacky techniques to try and get any type of gains, right? So they can't get stronger. So they got to do things like metabolically disturb the muscle in order to gain muscle mass. That's what they're down to. The problem is these are advanced bodybuilders who have no other options other than to do this because to lift more weight is just going to destroy their bodies. HIIT cardio is one of those things that people seem to just pull right out of the gate. What I'm understanding is it is really something that comes down the line. Number one, you have to be in some kind of condition and shape, and you actually have to know what intensity is and how hard you can push your body before you can even take advantage of high intensity cardio. Just like with those bodybuilders, to take advantage of high intensity cardio is a way to metabolically overload your legs, which is probably a valid technique, really only comes after you've learned to lift so much weight you can't lift any more weight anymore. Right. So it's one of these things I'd like to see people get their diet down, just get more active because it is intense and it is painful. And after warm up and cool down and everything else, you're not really saving a ton more time. If it floats your boat, I'm happy for you. But in my experience, over time, it is highly overrated. It is something you bring out later on. And you only bring it out one day a week, really, in the beginning. And then you can do a second. I wouldn't do it more than 2 days a week. What happened was all these people, particularly I found it women, were doing it like 5 days a week. And then they were getting burned out and injured. They were breaking bones in their feet. They were getting stress fractures in their feet. They were injuring their knees, injuring their hips, injuring their back. Because first of all, they were doing right out of the gate, and they were doing it 5 days a week. And again, it's a very intense but precise strategy you have to use at only given points of your workout weight loss journey. So definitely overrated. I certainly wouldn't build a business model around it. Well, if I was into just making money, I would, because it makes people really tired. And people think if something makes them really tired, then it must be working. But the downsides of it, it's just, yeah, no, definitely overrated.
Yeah.
Plus the whole afterburn thing is complete nonsense. Right? That was a misplaced decimal point in a research study. you're not burning more calories after the workout is over. Remember, the whole thing was like, well, if you do intervals, you have this blowtorch thing going on, right? The only way that's going to, you don't have that. Here's the shiny thing. The most calories you burn relative to exercise is during the exercise period itself. The burn afterwards, whether it's high intensity, which, probably has much more of an afterburn effect than low intensity cardio, but it's not that much. It's not going to change your weight loss life. And it really is like, it's like fasted cardio. People get all wacko about fasted cardio. And it's like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for people who aren't like those people that feel as a cardio train that are advanced bodybuilders. But if you're down to like 6% body fat and you're doing everything right in terms of calorie control and supplementation, both legitimate and illegitimate, then fasted cardio may offer you a benefit because it's about that much you have left to make a difference. For the average person, no, it's not going to make any difference at all. In fact, you'll probably go into the gym first thing in the morning hungry and bang your head on the treadmill when you pass out from low blood sugar. Right? But no, overrated. What do you think, Devon?
So overrated for fat loss. I think a lot of times, the first thing that comes to mind is, like you mentioned, those women that try to do HIIT multiple times a week, thinking that they're burning a lot more calories than they are. I mean, it's hard for someone who's not like an advanced athlete and really knows how to exert themselves in that way. Like, it's hard to really make it as productive calorie burn wise as most people think. And you're going to be better off just paying more attention to your nutrition and managing your energy balance that way. Maybe doing, like you said, when appropriate, maybe once a week, doing some HIIT cardio, it can be beneficial. But like, let's not forget the bigger picture. Like, your calorie intake is going to be the biggest thing. Lifting weights to keep your muscle, that's going to be the biggest thing. And then just your overall activity throughout the day. There's a term for this, I forget, you might know it, but there's a term for people that exercise really consistently, but they're so sedentary throughout the day.
Well, their NEAT is their non-exercise activity thermogenesis is nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the calories you burn in your life are not during exercise. If your name's not Michael Phelps, right? Well, he's competitive Michael Phelps. You're not burning more calories in exercise than you are throughout the rest of the day. So that's a good point. That's another downside. If you trash yourself in your workout and then you're garbage for the rest of the day, you're probably losing most of your potential calorie burn, especially considering the fact that the calorie afterburn effect is just not that great.
Yeah. So I would say overrated and like use it occasionally if and when appropriate, but don't forget the first three things are going to be way more important, is your calorie intake management, your lifting weights to preserve muscle as you lose weight, to make sure that when you do lose weight, it is from fat and not muscle, and then your non-exercise activity. So making sure you're looking at HIIT as like the cherry on top, and those other three things I mentioned, that's like the main event.
Yeah, and if I hadn't seen all the orthopedic costs that comes with a lot of this stuff, especially again with most of the women who are trying to lose weight, high intensity cardio and their physical structure don't exactly go like together like peanut butter and jelly, or to quote Rob Schneider and Big Daddy, lamb and tuna fish, right? They don't go together very well. And the number of foot, ankle, and hip injuries, mainly because this stuff is brought on too early. Maybe after they lose 10 to 20% of their body mass, they could then do interval work. That's another reason why I probably should left later in the routine, because once you're a lighter person, you can generate more intensity with cardio with less of an orthopedic stress. So that would be another little thing I'd throw in there too. It really is. It should come later and planned within the exercise routine stuff. But like anything, like look at. That's not even another bad example is collagen protein. We'll get to that later. When it first came out and people misread, well, the writers misread the data. People were just doing it all the time, when it's really only supposed to be meant to be done by advanced exercisers some of the time when all the other options have been exhausted.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, I really am enjoying this game show.
Okay.
I wish I had like Monopoly.
So the next one, let's do collagen protein.
Sorry.
So
Yeah.
collagen protein, overrated, underrated, or accurately rated?
Is there like a fourth topic that we could go on where it should be like, how do I explain this? I hate collagen protein. I hate it. Like I hate it. Right? I don't even want to rate it. That's how much I dislike collagen protein. All right, here's my collagen protein rant. There was a way they used to measure protein. What's the word I'm looking for? Back in the day, it was in the 80s and 90s. If you open any muscle and fitness or muscle builder power in the 80s and 90s, going back in time, you'd always see that protein companies talk about their biological value, right? And it was supposed to be like, how much of this protein can you actually absorb? And this goes off into a whole nother rant, because there was a company that made egg white protein, and their biological value of egg whites is like, it's like 100. Like you just absorb all the protein you take in. Whereas some of the more plant-based proteins, especially the ones that, unlike like whey, which have not been processed, their biological value is lower. Why? Because their amino acid profile is meant to build leaves, stems, and plants. It's not meant to build eyes, heart, and lung tissue, right? So the amino acids are off. Even the worst plant protein is better than collagen protein. What really, really gets me raging about collagen protein is, number one, it's sold by itself. So even if I could try and make an argument, if I said, well, maybe if it took collagen protein and you mixed it with whey or casein, which is dairy protein, or you mixed it with some other thing like egg protein, maybe you might have the amino acid pool that you get something out of it. Chemists and scientists will tell me I'm dead wrong about that. I had a scientist tell me word for word, Mike, even if you mix collagen protein with whey protein or casein or some other high-end protein, it still would be biologically worthless. The biological value of collagen protein is zero. It is 0.0. That, if you don't know, was Mr. Blutowski's grade point average in Animal House. 0.0, right? It is beyond worthless. And what makes me even more nuts is people drink it in isolation. So even if you lived in Shank's fantasy land, where all the scientists are saying, well, no, actually, Shank, even when mixed with other proteins, it won't do anything because your body can't use it. It still wouldn't probably do much of anything. So they sell it in isolation, where we definitely know it won't work. Even if you mix it into your protein, I mean, people putting that stuff in their coffee. They drink coffee first thing in the morning with isolated collagen protein. I'm like, that's going to do nothing. Like literally, it's just, no, it doesn't even belong in the rating scale. And there was people remember there was why they remember this? No one knows this. There's a couple people who know this. There was a thing years ago called the Last Chance diet, in which they used solely collagen protein as a way to lose weight in a very low calorie diet, and like dozens of people died from it because collagen protein is such crap you can't even survive on it. You could literally eat only potatoes, and you might not be happy, but you probably could survive on that, right? At least for a certain extended period of time. Collagen protein, you're going to die. That's how bad of a protein product is. If you only drink that, you'll die. Like, no, it sucks. Stop. It's not. People are like, look at my hair and nails. It's so amazing. No, it's total placebo effect, or as they would say in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Placido Domingo effect. It doesn't do. Stop with collagen protein. Stop. Yeah. Right. Get some Pantene Pro V with pro vitamins or something in it if you want your hair to shine. No, I hate collagen protein. And if there is some value to it, you'd have to mix it with something else. But God help you if you go to Target, or Walmart, or you go to Costco or whatever, you'll just see tubs of this stuff for sale by itself. No, stop. What do you think, Devon?
Yeah, I mean, as far as for hair, skin, and nails, I think, I mean, like there's the whole like bone broth thing. Like if you're having like quality, like actual real bone broth, like that can help. But I would say like the people that are having the collagen and thinking that it's contributing to like helping to keep their muscle mass or helping building muscle, I would say just you would want to emphasize other forms of protein, because it's just going to be actually absorbable for that purpose.
Biological value of 0. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't surprise me it's back, by the way. There was some guru who was selling, I'm not even getting into that. I'll go nuts on that rant. He was selling like an ant sterol. No, whatever. Zero. Biological value of zero. That's all you need to know. All in your head. Right?
Yeah.
So all in your head.
I think like the first thing that comes to mind when I think of collagen protein powder is the people where I'm like, okay, so when they tell me they eat enough protein, I'm like, okay, so what did you have? And they're like, okay, well, I have put collagen in my coffee, and then I have a hard-boiled egg with my breakfast, and then like for a snack, I have an RX bar. And it's like the bigger issue is that they don't understand that the foods that they're choosing are not actually as high in protein as they think they are. Like an egg has like 7 grams of protein. That RX bar, there's like a little bit of egg whites in it. Like I'm just thinking of like things that come to mind. So it's like zooming out and looking at the bigger picture of the typical person who does consume collagen protein. It's like they're probably not getting enough total protein in the first place. So like I think the collagen might not even be like their biggest issue.
That's such a huge point. That just made me think. You're absolutely right. It's if you look at collagen protein by itself, it's garbage for building muscle mass, right? For protein synthesis. You may say, well, Shank, who eats collagen protein by itself? Most of the average people who are taking collagen protein in are taking it by itself, right? Most of the advanced bodybuilders who are taking it and swearing that it does something for them are usually consuming all other types of protein. That means they have adequate protein intake. They've got adequate amino acid intake. So who knows if the collagen is even doing anything? It might not even be making any bit of a difference outside of what's inside their head. And even then, is the only way collagen protein is going to work is if you're already eating adequate amounts of protein to begin with. Well, who cares? If you're eating adequate amounts of protein to begin with, you've solved the main problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, but usually the people who eat collagen protein are probably not getting enough protein.
No, and they're not getting enough protein. They're usually doing it with, like you said, in the coffee. It's just one of these things that comes and goes. You're in this industry long enough. I never thought I would ever see insect skeleton sterols for building muscle to ever come back ever again. And sure enough, about 3 or 4 years ago, a YouTube guru, an internet guru, was selling it as a way to build muscle mass. And I could not believe what I was watching. This was like a big thing. It was up there with micronized creatine, right? Back in the 90s. There was actually an ad once for this company. I think it was called SoCal Supplements. And they said, our creatine works so well, you will slap your training partner. And in the advertisement, in the muscle mass, they had this bodybuilder just slapping this other bodybuilder in the face. And I'm like, all right, maybe we're behind that. No one will ever believe this stuff anymore. And then sure enough, someone digs that back up. So am I surprised that collagen protein has been dug back up? No. But I guess it's up to people like us that tell the public, no, knock it off. It's whatever. Biological value of zero.
Yeah.
Next time.
Creatine.
I think creatine's wonderful. I feel like James Carville in Old School when Will Ferrell gives that amazing response to the question. He's like, I have no response. That was perfect. All you have to do is say creatine. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. That's your answer.
Because I don't think the audience knows what to do without listening to me go on some anger, nonsense-filled rant with movie lines.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's underrated. Creatine.
Oh, here's a game show. Yes, it's very underrated. And I more people, especially our vegan friends and vegetarian friends, should look into it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Taken every day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I would say it's underrated. I mean, your total protein intake is more important than supplementing with creatine. But it is too hard to get the recommended amount of the amount of creatine that you would need to actually get the benefits from it. You can't, it would be too hard to get it just from eating meat.
Yeah, you'd have to be on like those carnivore diets or something like that. And that's not necessarily for some people, most people, a lot of people. God bless the carnivore people, but everyone else, no. I nothing. Such an angry, bitter man sometimes, but creatine is one of those things where I have nothing negative to say. Its ability to support health, muscle mass, workout efficiency, workout performance. And again, can you overtake anything? Yes. Now, creatine, it's kind of difficult unless you're shoving tons of powder in your mouth. It's not like caffeine powder, where if God forbid you put one more teaspoon in than you should, your heart could stop. It has so many health promoting effects. It's just like fish oil. There's so many health promoting effects. There's nothing to say other than it's not rated well enough, and all the crap that's being shoved in people's faces nowadays. It's one of those things that really, it had its day in the sun, and I think it should get back out in the sun. It really one of the few things that safe, effective is improving. It's been proven to work. So yes, yay creatine.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, I don't want to get. They think they're going to gain weight from it, but I mean, I don't think it's like, if it holds water in your muscles, so maybe you're gaining a little bit of water weight, and some people have complained that they get bloated from it. But I mean, aside from
how much are you taking? Right? If you're a smaller person, you need like 3 grams a day. If you're me, you need 5 grams a day. You don't need that much of it. Some people don't tolerate it very well for whatever reason, then don't take it. It's not manna from heaven. It's not going to change your life, but it can have a very positive effect, and it's not that expensive. There's one form called creatine monohydrate that works, and all the other stuff is just overpriced garbage for the most part. I have nothing that was a
yeah.
All right. Next one.
All right. Ice baths.
I so badly just want to do this. I just want to go like that, and there's no reason to do that. Ice baths. Okay, let's go back to, you're an advanced bodybuilder. You're an advanced cyclist. You're an advanced athlete. You need somehow to find a way to enhance recovery because you've reached that asymptote and you're killing yourself. And despite the first few years, everything's been going like this, and now things are leveling out. The problem is, the difference between first and last is this. That's the kind of person that would greatly benefit from doing ice baths to enhance recovery. Everyone else, you look like a dumbass sitting there in a giant tub of frozen water. Look, you and I have an acquaintance he's a workout animal. And this guy, I'd understand his benefit of doing ice baths because this guy is ready for the zombie apocalypse. If the zombie apocalypse happened today, you and I know the professor would be ready to go, right? I would go find him. He lives in Hamilton, so it's not that hard. I would go find him and I would make him my leader. I'd be like, all right, I got my shotgun, I got my canned goods. Tell me what to do. For everyone who's not that guy, all right? The guy's juggling kettlebells, for crying out loud. For everyone else, it's just kind of like, really, life's not hard enough as it is. You're going to go home and fill a bathtub full of ice and jump into it. I mean, seriously, what'll probably happen is you'll probably go into shock. You'll probably get sick. You'll probably hate your life. And then you go eat a bunch of cookies to deal with the fact that you're, no. For advance, again, this is one of these things that's gotten into the lay public, and it was really intended for, how do I explain this? Look, if you're a Canadian or you're Swedish and you're out in the hot tub in the middle of winter and you want to jump out and roll in the snow, because we all know that's what all Canadians and Swedes and Russians do, then that's wonderful. I think that's fantastic. It's cultural. It probably has some health benefits. You've been doing it since you were 5 years old. The rest of you, I think your heart's going to stop. I have no evidence of that, but it's like, come on, guys. We have so many other things to focus on, and you got people are turning themselves into a martini. It's not necessary. Overrated out the wazoo. What's your stance on it?
Yeah, overrated. I think for whether you're doing it for recovery or, I mean, if people are doing it for like a form of desirable difficulty, like to start their day with the hardest thing, and then so everything else they do that day is easier. Like, there are less expensive things that you can do to get the same effect, like a really intense training session. Like there's just other things you can do. You don't have to sit in an ice bath to get that like mental benefit. It's like, and like the physical benefits, I don't know the exact science, but I feel like the people that have asked me about it are people who aren't lifting weights consistently. They're not eating half body weight to their body weight in grams of protein consistently. They're not planning their meals. They're not cooking most of their meals from home. Like they don't have the basics down, and they want to know about the fancy, like the shiny objects. So yeah, overrated.
I think what happens is, because 90% of this is behavior based, if dunking ice water on yourself or sitting in an ice tub, then you're convinced that's the worst thing that's going to happen to you all day. And then that motivates you to be gracious and have gratitude for the rest of your day. So I guess it could have some value in terms of the psychological. If you're a fine-tuned athlete, it might have some value in terms of regulating your nervous system and recovery. But you're right. There's so many other things that people aren't doing correctly. If it has some psychological benefit for you, fantastic. The idea of getting up and doing that to myself, I just have, life's hard enough as it is. I don't need to invite these things into my life. It's just, maybe it's because I'm an introvert in an extroverted world, and I just don't need any more, an extroverted job, and I don't need any more emotional stress in my day. But yeah, it's overrated. And if you want to do it, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. Well, I can't stop you. Who the hell am I? But yeah, definitely overrated.
Okay. All right. Let's see, machines, like when it comes to free weights versus barbells, dumbbells, machines, I'm not comparing all of them necessarily, but just like exercise machines.
What I think is overrated, people's opinions on the difference between free weights and machines. I think that's the overrated thing. The other day I heard a young trainer, a nice kid, and he was trying to learn more about the profession. I hope he watches this video, because he was asking all the other trainers in the gym. He said, "What's your favorite machine in the gym?" And I'm then thinking about the question. I was like, I get the Miss Mona Lisa Vito. Is that her name? From My Cousin Vinny, remember? It's a bullshit question. Remember that part that won her the Oscar? It's a BS question, because the reality is there is no favorite machine, because then you're a terrible trainer who's putting your bias on everybody else. Favorite machine for what? If I've got a client who's got high blood pressure and I can't have them do proper core stabilization on free weight exercises, I'm going to put in a machine, so a great deal of the chance of them holding their breath and spiking their blood pressure and stroking them out is going to be taken away by having them stabilize in the machine. If I've got someone who's got terrible levers for weightlifting, they've got long arms and long limbs, the machines are some of the best things, especially, oh my God, isolation machines, pec decks and leg extensions are some of the best pieces of equipment from that build mass, because they're not very well built for building muscle based on their levers with free weights. The leg press, if I've got a long-legged client, right, I will tell you right now, if I got a guy training, he's about 6'4", I'm 5'9". We are the same height sitting down. How is that possible? Because he's got really, really long femurs. He's 7 inches taller than I am, but we're the same height sitting down. He's got long femurs, which means when he barbell squats, yeah, you can put weightlifting shoes on him. Yeah, he can rotate his feet out. Yeah, he can make his feet wide. And guess what? It's still a low back exercise. He will do nothing to develop his quads. You put him on a leg press, and he's like the Mozart of leg exercises. I mean, it's just this beautiful, smooth, huge range of motion this guy has, right? So just the argument as to free weights versus machines, for who and for what purpose? I just told you I was walking a dog the other day, today. He saw a bicycle and he got excited, and dumbass me wasn't prepared, and I twisted my back, right? That means when I go in on Monday, the odds of me going and grabbing a pair of 100-pound incline dumbbells, lying back on an incline or flat bench with a pair of dumbbells and then pressing them out for reps is about, it's the biological value of collagen protein. It's 0, right? Because just the fact of picking those weights up, sitting down, lying down with them, cleaning them, my back is going to go into spasms, right? It'll feel better by the end of the day, but it's not going to be ready for something like that. So in that case, an incline machine where the weight's already set up for me, and all I do is push the lever to get the weight in place, it's going to be much more forgiving on my 48-year-old arthritic spine. Because it's not the years, it's the miles. So it's so context dependent that when you ask me whether it's machines versus free weights, or even just what's my favorite machine, I need to know who you're talking about in what instance. Most beginners, what are you going to do? You're going to teach them the barbell squat, barbell bench press, and barbell deadlift. They're going to getting no stimulation for 2 to 6 weeks before you can get those exercises done adequately. I'd rather put that some person while I'm teaching them the deadlift, or teaching them the press, or teaching them the squat, put them on a leg extension, leg curl, chest press, lat pull down, seated row, side raise machine, shoulder press machine, bicep curls with a cable, stuff that's so simple and easy for them to balance. They can actually start overloading their muscle tissue from day one. So it's not just that machines versus free weights are overrated. The whole concept, the whole argument is it tells me the person saying it is overrated, because obviously they don't train anybody. They can't. No trainer worth their salt can come out and tell you that this is a superior form of exercise, because you've met too many people who don't fit within your narrow realm or definition of what is the ideal exercise. It just can't. It's not going to happen. So no, holy, the question, let me tell you something, Devon. In my basement right now, there is a 1970s issue of Muscle Builder Power. And it has a rusty old kettlebell, and it has a dumbbell, and then it has this like quasi-electronic machine in it. And the article says, it says kettlebells used to be used for exercise, and then they were replaced by the superior dumbbell. And now the dumbbell will be replaced by superior machines. And you will see in the next 30 or 40 years, the absence of dumbbells. And if you're lucky, if it says in the article, you're lucky if you could find a kettlebell anywhere in your gym other than hold the door open. All right. It said that about kettlebells, right? Kettlebells are everywhere now, right? Despite the fact they're not really the most efficient thing for most exercises. And dumbbells are still in gyms, and machines have taken their proper context. But this was an article written saying that machines were becoming so evolved and so advanced that they were going to completely replace dumbbells, and no one was ever using kettlebells, because who in their right mind would use kettlebells, right? It's just, it's a nature of the industry. It's a nature of human overreaction. And yeah, no, give me the individual, give me the context, and I can find you people where machines are 10,000 times better than free weights. Likewise, give me the individual, give me the scenario, and I can find areas where free weights are 10,000 times better than machines. It comes down to what you need to use it for. And I gave some specific examples right there. If you have an athlete who needs to be able to stabilize their body mass while moving through space and does not need to recover from other exercise, then free weights are going to be far superior for that athlete, in the most part. But yeah, that's my stance on that.
Yeah, I think machines are underrated, because just for for what you were talking about, like being able to stabilize your spine and actually stimulate the muscle tissue that you want to stimulate, rather than, like, let's say leg extensions. I don't know. For me, leg extensions versus like barbell back squats, I'm just going to have a hard time building my quads on a barbell back squat. Whereas with a machine leg extension, my quads are more isolated and I can actually load them up. So that's just one example. Just because of my structure and how I squat, it's just going to be mostly glutes when I squat. So yeah, so a leg extension machine is good for me. So, but yeah, so just in general, they're really good to stabilize and actually load up the muscles that you want to build. So yeah, I would say machines are underrated.
I'll find a lot of times the trainers who are most loud on this topic are either trainers with their own studio who can't afford machines. There are functional training gurus whose entire business model revolves around free weights and, to a degree, cables, right? So they have to poo-poo that, and they don't want to spend $50,000 to open a facility by buying a circuit of machines. And again, then you talk about, like, for example, I was working with a lady the other day, and she was having foot and calf problems. And then when we got her to do things like split squats, so she couldn't stabilize her thigh bone in her hip. The inner outer thigh machine is not going to do anything to help solve that problem. So in that case, doing body weight lunges and split squats and getting her to properly stabilize her foot by using a band to pull her leg in and out to get her to kind of work on her corrections, that was superior, because her problem wasn't that she had weak hips. It's that her hips were weak relative to their ability to control her foot. So in that case, yeah, the free weight exercise, in this case, body weight exercise, was by far superior to the inner outer thigh. But if this woman was so weak that she couldn't even do the split squats, I sure as hell would have started her out on an inner outer thigh leg extension, leg curl to help her build the strength, build the muscle, and then practice the pattern while holding on to a Smith machine, or God forbid that, or a spar and a squat rack, and practicing the split squat so she gets the skill of the exercise. But yeah, that's just another example of where, yeah, the machine is inferior, but maybe necessary in the beginning to help get someone to the point where then they can take advantage of the, for the goal, much more superior equipment.
Yeah.
Like inner thigh, your foot's just kind of hanging there, and your inner outer thigh is working like this. Your abductors and adductors are inner thigh, right? Your adductors add to the body. Your abductors pull away from the body. They're doing nothing as far as their quote unquote functional ability to control your foot to stabilize on the ground. But, you know, some people just need to build muscle mass. Some people need to be able to get in tune with those muscles where they can then use it in an integrated environment like a split squat. So no, I usually find that the people who are most loud on the other side of the issues are clubs that have bought hundreds of thousands of dollars of exercise equipment and have to justify it, or trainers who can't afford that stuff and want to justify why they don't have it. Yeah. If you have the tool and it's appropriate to you, then use it. Or it's part of their business model. Look, we use machines because we're, you know, functional. It's like, all right, well, you're just framing sales in a different context. That's all it is.
Yeah. All right. Next one is pepperoni pizza.
Well, first off, let me tell you something. My friend Anil Kumar will agree with me on this one. We need to be specific. All right. Pepperoni pizza from Brothers Pizza on Route 33 in Hamilton, New Jersey. It cannot be rated high enough. What we have to talk about here is the crime of flat pepperoni. If I had a cause in my life besides animal rescue, it would be to banish flat pepperoni. You need pepperoni cups. You need the casing. You need the bite. You need the succulent taste of sweet meat candy. Right? So pepperoni pizza is incredibly underrated. Now, look, if you're a vegan or a vegetarian or you don't eat trace, I get it. Right? But for me, pepperoni pizza, little cup pepperoni cannot be rated high enough. You have to have joy in life. And I swear to God, I think there's people in our industry who are hell-bent on removing all joy from people's lives. This is why we exercise the way we do, why we eat the other way than 99% of the time we eat, so that when we eat our pepperoni pizza, we can enjoy it. I just go off on a rant here. I heard Chris Pratt say something the other day, which is about one of the only worthwhile things I've ever heard a celebrity say. That was really angry, sorry. He said something. He said when he was overweight, when he was on Parks and Rec, the only time he ever felt good was when he was eating. The other 22 hours of the day, he felt like absolute crap. And now that he's in shape, he feels great the other 22 hours of the day, and he feels okay when he eats. And there was something about that insight that I never thought of it that way, that most people are so out of shape and so unhealthy. They're eating pepperoni pizza all the time, that the only time they ever feel good during the day is when they're eating. And when we go back to following through on your diet and staying in below 1,200 calories, that whole thing we start off with, that's a big factor. If the only time you ever feel good during your day is when you eat, good luck with getting in a calorie deficit. And that's why it's so important to just to have your principles and start getting healthy. Because it really is, once you start getting healthy, it's so hard. Like when I eat pepperoni pizza and I love it, the next day I feel kind of crummy, right? Again, within the context of the next day, not every day for the rest of my life. So no, pepperoni pizza, little cups, awesome. Okay. What do you think?
Overrated.
Look at this. I'm rubbing my thighs. I'm all fired up.
So my opinion on pizza, like meat on pizza, like pepperoni or sausage on pizza, to me, it's like I feel about that how you feel about fruit and dessert.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, like the only meat appropriate on pizza to me is buffalo chicken pizza, and that's acceptable, but no to pepperoni or sausage. I think it's just like too much. Like if the crust and the sauce and the cheese is good, like the pepperoni and sausage is just like a distraction from what's actually good.
I can't go on, Devon. We got to end with that. I can't go on. Oh my God. Well, here's the deal. That just means there's now I'm going to turn this around. That means there's more pepperoni pizza for me.
Yeah. Well, and I did Neil a favor and I asked my chef brother what his opinion on pepperoni pizza was. And
Yes.
said his favorite is pepperoni with long hots and hot honey.
There you go. Look out.
Yeah. So, and then he was shocked when I said I don't like meat on pizza.
Yes. And he's your own brother.
Yeah.
Could he believe he was even related to you or no?
No.
Where is your brother a chef at? Is he currently working at a restaurant right now?
Walnut Street Cafe.
What's that?
Walnut Street Cafe in Philly.
All right, we'll put that in the show notes. Walnut Street Cafe. Go get yourself some pepperoni pizza. Wait, do they sell pepperoni with long hots and hot honey or no?
Probably not, but you can go on their Instagram and watch their reels. He's on their reels, so you can.
All right, we'll put it in show notes. And as always, we got 2 Anil Kumar shout outs. That was huge. I don't think we can get any higher than that. So let's end it on this. Anything to say, Devon, before we close out?
No, I think we covered everything.
Is there anything you want to pimp or promote?
You can follow me on Instagram, coach__Devon.
Excellent. And of course, you know me, Mike Cruikshank, the author of Dead People Don't Lose Weight. I'll put the link in the show notes. You can get it on Amazon.com. All right, that's it, Devon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I got to end recording. This has to be edited out. I'm terrible at this. Stop recording.